Everyone has heard the term UFO, but few have heard of its underwater counterpart USO, Unidentified Submersible Object, but a new book lifts the lid on the phenomenon. It has often been said that we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the world's seas and oceans. The study of USOs, Unidentified Submersible Objects, is a case in point. For years, strange phenomena have been reported by people at sea, especially by naval personnel. Many of the reports lie in the USO files of the Soviet and Russian Navy and remain secret, however some have filtered out. In their new book, authors Paul Stonehill and Philip Mantle reveal stories of strange encounters by the Soviet and Russian Navy with unexplained objects. The two experts say most of these stories have never been told outside of Russia, but they provide yet more evidence that we are not alone. Indeed, they suggest a permanent presence of something unusual in the depths of Earth's large bodies of water. Here Philip describes the pair's findings. For decades now, these mysterious underwater UFOs have been observed in the Earth's oceans and lakes, and the one country in the world that seems to have had more such sightings is Russia. The Soviet Union's military fleet commanders guarded its secret of the USO subject, and those witnesses who tried to go public were swiftly ridiculed and their sightings were officially debunked. But despite their best efforts, USO reports were made public, and no matter what the Soviet officials tried to do, the USOs will not simply go away. Our knowledge of the depths of the seas and oceans and large lakes is very limited. It is said that we know more about the surface of the moon than the depths of the oceans, but these are some of the sightings which hint at a world beneath the waves. The swimmers. One of the most peculiar of all such underwater encounters is one known as the swimmers. In the summer of 1982, Mark Steenberg, along with Lt. Colonel Gennady Zverev, Soviet Navy, conducted periodic training of the reconnaissance divers from the Turkestan and Central Asian military regions. Some of these training exercises took place at the Issyk-Kul Lake in Kyrgyzstan. Quite unexpectedly, the officers were paid a visit by a very important official, Major General V. Demyanenko, commander of the Military Diver Service of the Engineer Forces of the Ministry of Defense. He informed the local officers of an extraordinary event that had occurred during similar training exercises in the Transbaikal and West Siberian military regions. There, during their military training dives in Lake Baikal, the frogmen had encountered mysterious underwater swimmers, very human-like, except that their size was much larger, almost 3 meters tall. Despite icy cold water temperatures and a depth of 50 meters, they were dressed only in tight-fitting silvery suits with neither scuba diving equipment, nor any other equipment, only sphere-like helmets concealing their heads. The local military commander, who was quite alarmed by such encounters, decided on a plan to capture one of the creatures. To complete the mission, a special group of 7 divers, under the command of an officer, had been dispatched. Apparently, as the Soviet Navy frogmen tried to cover the creature with a net, a powerful unknown force threw the entire group out of the deep waters and up to the surface. Red Sphere in the Red Sea. In August 1965, the crew of the Soviet steamship Rajaga, while navigating in the Red Sea, observed a remarkable spectacle. At around 2 miles away from their vessel, a fiery sphere dashed out from under the water and hovered over the surface of the sea, illuminating the ocean in every direction. The sphere was estimated to be 60 meters in diameter, and it hovered above the sea at an altitude of 150 meters. A gigantic pillar of water arose as the sphere emerged from the sea and then collapsed some moments later. This observation was mentioned in a number of Russian publications and was taken very seriously by the Soviet authorities. It is yet another typical example of a USO report. Silver Beehive. In the 1970s, reports issued by Admiral V.A. Demyslovsky, chief of the Pacific Fleet's Intelligence Department, described an unknown, gigantic cylindrical object sighted by Soviet Navy in faraway regions of Pacific Ocean. The object was 800 to 900 meters long. When it hovered over the ocean, smaller objects exited from one of its ends, like bees from a beehive, and descended into the waters. Some time later they re-entered the gigantic UFO. After the smaller objects thus loaded inside, the UFO flew away and disappeared over the horizon. Bermuda Triangle. According to a report on MosNews.com, former Rear Admiral and nuclear submarine commander Yuri Beketov saw USO activity inside the Bermuda Triangle. He said, "We repeatedly observed that the instruments detected the movements of material objects at unimaginable speed, around 230 knots, 250 miles per hour. It's hard to reach that speed on the surface, only in the air is it readily possible. The beings that created those material objects significantly exceed us in development." Russian naval intelligence expert and captain first rank Igor Barclay also noted that the unidentified objects were most often spotted in deep water near where military forces are concentrated off the Bahamas, Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and the east coast of the United States. The Devil's Sea. Captain first rank, now retired, Yuri Vinogradov, who had served in the Soviet Navy from 1975 to 2000, also had a story to tell. Vinogradov was a top expert in his field, had been involved in a number of submarine search and recovery operations, a veteran of high-risk units, and a participant in 4 long-range missions. He had been to the Devil's Sea, also known as the Dragon Triangle, which is located between Japan, Guam, and northern Philippines. Some call this area the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. In the 1980s, Vinogradov had participated in the search and rescue operations involving the Soviet Pacific Fleet. Twice he and other officers had observed, on the sonar screen, a USO that had moved at great speed, and had disappeared into the depths never to be seen again. Philip Mantle is an international UFO researcher, lecturer, and broadcaster. His books have been published in 6 different languages around the world. He is the former Director of Investigations for the British UFO Research Association. His book Russia's USO Secrets is out now and available from Amazon.